My wife cheated over a lie told by her friend. Now she's locked out and begging for forgiveness. I arrived home at 3 a.m. on Saturday. The travel from Aberdeen to London was unpleasant due to the usual Friday gridlock. In addition, there was a major accident on the highway that delayed me for several hours. I expected Liz, my wife Elizabeth, to have gone to bed long ago, but I was surprised she didn't leave a light on for me. I retrieved my luggage and briefcase from the trunk of my car and painfully brought them up to the front door. I sensed something was wrong as soon as I stepped inside. The house was frigid, most likely because the heating had been turned down or off, which was unusual given Liz's preference for a warm environment. After dropping my bags and turning on the lights, I was surprised to see some furnishings missing. Confused, I hurriedly went upstairs to our bedroom, expecting to find Liz asleep, but she was not there. The closet was open, and almost all of Liz's clothing was gone. I was stunned, wondering what in the world had happened. I figured a drink could help, so I walked into the living room, poured myself some rum, and sat down to think. Liz had clearly left, but I had no idea why. We had been married for nearly 19 years and have twin girls, both in their first year of university. Yes, Liz was already pregnant when we married. To be honest, Liz and I married for reasons other than great love. We were simply having fun together, and then she became pregnant with Susan and Sandra. I resolved to do the right thing and marry her. Honestly, I didn't see any other options. My father would have been upset if I had not stepped up, but love operates in unexpected ways. Before I knew it, I was completely in love with Liz and our girls. My life began to revolve around them, and I went to tremendous measures to please Liz. I take pride in being the most dedicated husband someone could be. Since our girls departed for college, Liz and I had been reconnecting and catching up on missed time. However, our marriage was not flawless. Elizabeth had a strong personality, and I often went along with her wishes to avoid conflict. For the most part, I was satisfied with our lives together. But now it appeared I had been duped, or at the very least, Liz was dishonest. She appeared to have left me, but I had no idea why. She constantly professed her love for me, and we even discussed how unlikely our marriage would have been if she hadn't been pregnant. Yet, we both thought it was the best thing that had happened to us, falling passionately in love over the years. Now, it appeared that one of us had reconsidered. My emotions got the best of me, and rage seized control. I started pacing the room, then walked outside to the garden for a smoke. Liz disliked the smell of my tobacco indoors, so I would always smoke outside. After 10 minutes, the realization that Liz might never be around to complain again struck me, but I still finished my pipe outside. When I got back inside, I found a letter on the kitchen table addressed to David. I paused and stared at it briefly. Liz penned the letter, and she was clearly angry with me. She only calls me David when she is upset. While sitting down, I was hesitant to open the envelope, fearing what it could say. I finally opened it and read her furious words. She accused me of lying and cheating and announced that she was leaving me. She accused me of being unfaithful with someone much younger and promised to take everything from me during the divorce. Liz was so unhappy that she threatened violence against the lady she suspected I was engaged with. She made it apparent that she thought I hadn't given our girls any consideration. She urged me to find a new place to live since she intended to take the house in the divorce. Elizabeth, that is fascinating, I said to myself. I was curious about the person Liz was accusing me of being with. I believe a communication error occurred. I don't fit the profile of a cheater. If I were that sort, I would have left Liz when she became pregnant, but I value my possessions too much to risk losing them. Sure, I've been tempted like any other man, but I've always been conscious of what's important and acted responsibly. Nonetheless, Liz appeared sure that I was disloyal. So what was I supposed to do? The only sensible thing to do at the moment was to go to bed. I had been awake since early Friday morning and was now in the early hours of Saturday. I usually keep my emotions in check, a characteristic that has benefited me well professionally. I assumed that once I understood the situation, I would be able to reassure Liz that she was mistaken. However, sitting in bed, sleep eluded me as doubts crept in. Why didn't Liz address me immediately if she suspected infidelity? That made me wonder whether she had expected me to cheat. People frequently expect others to act in the same way they would. Wait a minute, let me think about this. Could Liz have suspected me of cheating because she had been unfaithful, and then for some reason she began to suspect me too? That thought made me jump out of bed. This was serious. Before I realized it, I searched the entire house for any indication that Liz had been cheating. I turned her sewing room upside down, but there was no point in going through her bedroom drawers because they were already empty. I then moved on to the computer. It didn't take long to break into her email, and I spent hours going through her internet history. It was an enormous waste of time, but I felt compelled to do it. The only thing I found was her search for a divorce lawyer the previous Thursday. However, there was no indication that she actually contacted anyone. That's when I had a clever notion. To win a battle, sometimes you have to strike first. It was a long shot, but I decided to email the law firm she appeared to have chosen, claiming to need their services for my own divorce case. I figured there was a slight chance she hadn't contacted them already. It turned out I was correct. They responded within minutes, urging me to come in as soon as possible, so I did exactly that. By 10 a.m. that Saturday, I was at their office with a check in hand, hiring Maria Granite to be my lawyer. Liz probably didn't realize that some lawyers work on Saturday. After I explained what I discovered at home and showed her the letter, Maria, my lawyer, inquired whether I had ever been unfaithful in my marriage. I assured her that I loved my wife and hadn't done anything to jeopardize our marriage. Maria told me to remain calm, find out where Liz had gone, and speak with her, believing that it could all be a major misunderstanding that we could overcome through discussion. I went back home and began searching for Liz. I called her parents and brother, but they hadn't heard from her and confirmed she was not with them. Liz's sister was similarly ignorant of her location, but I didn't anticipate Liz to travel there because of the distance. Despite being unaware that Liz had abandoned me, her family swiftly rallied behind her after I described the circumstances. The next call was to Liz's friend Rose, which I was dreading but knew was vital. Rose, who has been divorced twice, is known for being unpredictable, ranging from sweet to angry in an instant. Liz and Rose have been friends since they were in school, and Rose, known for her attractiveness, would spend time with Liz when she wasn't with one of her boyfriends. Liz and I would laugh about how she frequently finished her girls' nights needing a ride home because Rose had found companionship. I had always trusted Liz despite her connection with Rose. As soon as Rose met a new man, Liz would ask me to come get her. I called Rose, and she immediately started giving me a hard time, confirming my guess that Liz was present. Rose maintained she was not. Frustrated, I ended the call. The familiar sensations of rage and confusion returned, so I went outside to calm down with my pipe. After gathering my thoughts, I concluded Liz was attempting to irritate me by leaving without explanation, but I determined not to let that affect me. I had done nothing wrong by participating in Liz's games. I called our twin children, who were astonished to learn their mother had left. I reassured them that I had done nothing to cause Liz to depart and suggested she might be at Rose's. I even told Liz she could stay for as long as she wanted. The girls assumed it was all a big misunderstanding and that their mother would realize her error soon. I knew I shouldn't have included them, but I was caught up in the moment and hoped they'd talk reason into their mother. Then I went to the garage and dug around. When we initially bought our house, I replaced all the outdoor lock barrels for 2 reasons. We weren't sure we had all the original keys, and I wanted a single key for all the doors for simplicity. A Euro lock barrel replacement is a quick process. I restored all the lock barrels to their original condition, then fastened the garage door so it couldn't open. Liz decided to leave, so she was out for good and couldn't return. While I was working on the garage door, old man Blake from across the street came by. He and his wife are nosy, so I assumed they noticed Liz moving stuff and wanted to know what was going on. I didn't say anything to him, but he remembered seeing a rental truck on Friday morning and some individuals taking items out, including Liz and a woman. Liz drove away in her Volvo while the woman left in a pink VW Beetle, definitely Rose's car. That nightfall, I ensured that no one could look inside the house from the bottom floor by pulling all the drapes and closing the garage window blinds. But I could see outside fine from the second story, thanks to our security CCTV system, which I built to make Liz feel safer when I wasn't at home. I called Rose again, and she immediately denied Liz was with her, calling me names and claiming she would not give me Liz's whereabouts even if she knew. I quietly requested her to send Liz a message if she spotted her. I told her that because Liz had decided to accept a story without speaking with me, I didn't want to see her again, and was preparing to file for divorce as a result of her abandonment. Rose was taken aback when Liz revealed that she intended to divorce me for cheating before accusing me of it. Rose, I'd have to cheat, which I'm sure I haven't, so I believe I'm in the clear. Don't bother yourself, the divorce is likely to go in my favor. Liz decided to leave me. She even left a letter stating her intention to leave, which my lawyer feels is sufficient proof. But Rose slipped up, starting to express something personal before switching to accusing me. I hung up and disconnected the phone. I was intrigued by Rose's slip-up, which led me to suppose she witnessed me with another lady. Would Rose convey my exact words to Liz? Might this make Liz reconsider her decision? After hanging up, I cooked myself dinner and glanced outside when it was dark to ensure privacy. Liz wanted to play games, and I was eager to join them. Later, I noticed Liz's automobile on CCTV, indicating a change in her plans. She and Rose sat in the car, likely planning their next move. Perhaps Liz was reconsidering, wondering if she had enough evidence for court or if she had misinterpreted the scenario. She may have assumed that staying in the house would keep me from claiming she abandoned me. After a while, Liz attempted to use her key to open the front door, most likely after failing to open the garage with her remote, only to find her key did not work. Liz rang the doorbell many times and called for me through the mail slot. Rose stepped out of the Volvo and joined her. I could hear them chatting, but Rose's suggestion to try another door was the only thing that was clear. They walked away from the camera's view, and I soon heard them at the kitchen door, then the patio door, which is very near to where I was. Before I knew it, they were back at the front door. Liz attempted to open the garage door manually after the front door refused to budge, but soon gave up. They then had a heated conversation outside the Volvo before Rose left, and Liz returned to her car. Liz appeared to phone regularly over the next 30 minutes but did not speak with anyone, probably ringing the house phone, and I had turned off my phone. Rose returned with McDonald's, and they stayed in the car until after midnight before driving away. Rose's VW was left behind, indicating that they might return in the morning. They spent the entire Sunday parked outside, with Rose making multiple McDonald's runs. They left again around midnight, this time taking Rose's car, most likely because she needed it for work on Monday. I left the house early Monday, eating breakfast at a service area and reading the papers, until it was time to go to work. I was the first to arrive at the office, expecting the situation with Liz to intensify. Right at 9:05, my phone rang, probably Liz finally reaching out. "Liz, what's up? You've been trying to enter the house all weekend." Her wrath caught me by surprise. Honestly, I expected Liz to apologize that morning. "I wouldn't try to enter the house again if I were you, Liz. You don't live there anymore, and since it's too large for just me, I've chosen to rent it out." That was not true, but I wanted to see how she reacted. Liz screamed out, "You rented out our home? Why would you do that?" "Well, Liz, we're in for a pricey court battle. The rent will help cover these costs." Liz could hardly believe it. "No, Liz, you're the one who overreacted by accusing me of cheating, writing that terrible letter, and ignoring me while staying with Rose. David, we need to discuss talking." "Liz, time for talking ended last Friday. Now it's all about the lawyers." "So you aren't sorry at all, are you? Just fine with us splitting up after 20 years? "Wait a minute, I did not do anything wrong." "You're the one who left and wrote the note, and you mentioned divorce first. Maybe you could speak with the lawyer you indicated, and then let me know so I can inform mine." Then I hung up. I wondered if I was pushing things too far. Yes, I think I was pushing it a little. But in my opinion, there's nothing worse than your spouse doubting your trust after you've been nothing but loyal. So, I made a couple of calls that I believed were required. First, I went to the truck rental agency to confirm a few facts. They introduced me to a man I recalled from one of Rose's gatherings. I think I gave him a good scare. Then I made a call from overseas to cover all bases. About 30 minutes later, my lawyer, Maria Granite, called me, sounding annoyed. She assumed Liz was going to hire her against me. I admitted I knew Liz might try it, but Maria is the best divorce lawyer in town, so I wanted her on my side. Maria informed me that she had referred Liz to another firm, which was also high quality but expensive. I joked about finding a lawyer that wasn't pricey, and Maria reminded me, I'm free to comment on my money how I see fit. She then asked why I wasn't trying to talk things out with Liz. I told her that everything would come out eventually. Liz is calling me David, which means she's mad at me. She won't listen when I say I haven't cheated. She'd call me Dave if she believed me. Elizabeth never uses David unless she's upset. I don't get your point, but you guys really should talk. I'm open to talking when she's ready to listen, but I've got some big questions for her, and if I don't like the answers, we'll be heading for a divorce. Do you think she's been cheating? Not exactly, but she jumped to believe I could, which makes me wonder if she's been as loyal as she expects me to be. She's quick to judge. I get your point now, but it's a new one for me. We'll see how it goes. I'll talk to you later, Maria. I couldn't focus much after that. Around noon, Liz called back. Dave, we need to talk. I decided to meet her at a pub near my work at 2. Liz seemed thrown off by my agreement, but quickly slipped back into formal mode, calling me David. At the pub, I didn't offer to buy her a drink, reminding her she left me. She bought her own and demanded, "What's your excuse, Elizabeth? I'm clueless about what you're accusing me of. What exactly did I do wrong?" "You were in Blackpool with some woman last weekend. You were seen, so don't deny it." "I was in Edinburgh for work, as always. We even talked on the phone. I don't know where you were. You could have been anywhere, but I was told you were in Blackpool with another woman. My work schedule is always the same, but someone saying they saw me in Blackpool is either mistaken or lying. Rose saw you there with another woman while on a trip to see the illuminations. Rose said you didn't even notice her because you were too into the woman you were with. She even followed you to your room." Liz, think about it. How long have we known Rose and you think I wouldn't recognize her? You're right, Rose stands out, especially with her fashion choices. No man would miss her presence. Exactly, so the idea that I wouldn't notice her if we were in the same hotel is ludicrous. Suddenly, Rose barged into the bar, sat down next to me, and slammed a photo on the table. "Explain this," she demanded. I looked at the photo, recognized mailing, and showed it to Liz. "Isn't this mailing?" Rose took pictures of her but didn't realize she's my brother's girlfriend. They must have been in the country. "Did you know they were visiting, Liz? You know their ship usually stops in Amsterdam." My brother's married to Mailing, a lovely woman from Singapore he met while working as first mate on a container ship. They actually live on the ship since it's rarely in port, and many crew members do the same with their spouses. And yes, my brother and I are identical twins, which seems to be a family trait, considering my daughters are twins too. Liz started to cry, and Rose sat there, mouth agape. "Rose, did you say hi to Phil? You used to have a crush on him back at our wedding. That's been a while, hasn't it?" Now both were in tears, Liz from realizing her mistake, and Rose probably feeling guilty for causing trouble. I just sat there, drinking my beer, letting them collect themselves. Once they stopped crying, it was clear they were at a loss for words. Rose was the first to try to make amends. "Dave, I'm sorry, I totally forgot about Phil. I genuinely thought it was you. You two look so much alike." "Well, twins tend to look alike, Rose, and don't worry about forgetting Phil. I doubt he'd remember you either," I said a bit sharply, but I was still pretending to be more upset than I was. "I'm really sorry, Dave," Liz chimed in, sounding more composed. "It never crossed my mind it could be Philip. Can you forgive my foolish mistake? I can see now how wrong I was." "No, I absolutely can't forgive you," I said with anger. Both of their faces showed shock. "I've got to ask, Liz, why would you even think for a second that I'd be unfaithful? We've been together 19 years. Have I ever done anything to make you doubt me?" "No, Dave, you've been nothing but a good husband and a fantastic dad," she admitted. "Then why were you so convinced I was cheating? And think before you answer. Saying it's because Rose told you suggests you trust her over your own husband. I've been the one who's been here for you, taking care of you and our daughters every time Rose ditched you for a guy during your nights out. I was the one who picked you up, no complaints from me ever." Liz just sat there, taking in my words, pondering. I waited a bit before pressing on. "What made you jump to believing I'd cheat? Is it because you've been stepping out on me? People usually suspect others of what they're capable of themselves. The thought of you cheating never crossed my mind because I couldn't imagine being unfaithful to you, so I figured you'd be the same. But you've changed everything now. Without hesitation, you assumed I was cheating just because Rose said so. You didn't even ask me about it. Now prove to me you've never cheated. What about all those late nights coming home or the times you crashed at Rose's? What were you doing while I was away on business?" "Dave, I swear I've never cheated on you, ever," she pleaded. Liz blurted out, clearly agitated. "So you're telling me, but who were those two guys with the rental truck on Friday, and why did you give that guy a kiss?" I noticed Liz flinch when I mentioned the kiss. "They work with Rose. She asked them to help out," she explained. "And how did you thank them once they dropped your stuff off at Rose's?" "The same way Rose shows her appreciation." I knew exactly what I was implying. Rose often bragged about how she repaid favors, especially with car maintenance. I've warned her about the garage owner's wife. She's not someone to mess with. I once saw her confront a woman her husband was fooling around with. Never saw that woman again. No, I didn't do anything like that. I just gave Mike a quick peck on the cheek to say thanks. It was just a small gesture, Liz insisted. "But you did that in public." "What happened in private at Rose's?" I pressed. "Nothing, Dave, you have to believe me. They just helped unload and left. They needed to return the van." "If that's true, then why were there extra charges?" "The van wasn't brought back until 10 a.m. on Saturday. When you rent a van online, they email you the receipt. I saw that email. The van wasn't returned until Saturday morning at 10. What really went on? I need to leave before I get really angry. Let me buy Rose or I'll have to move you myself." Rose stood up, and I squeezed past her. I turned to Liz. "I'm only going to believe the complete truth from you. I have a lot of friends who visit those same places you and Rose go to. You need to decide fast if you want to work on our marriage. Right now, I'm not sure I care, but if I hear any stories about what you've been doing, you better hope you've already told me. Be at our house by 8 tonight. I'll give you an hour to explain." Then I left the bar. I'm not clueless, and I think Liz knows that too. Though I never asked them, my friends have always watched out for Liz and Rose during their nights out. I've been informed Liz is known as the Ice Maiden in the club scene. Always fun, but never going further than dancing. Liz's problem is she doesn't know who my friends are or what they might tell me. If she's been up to anything, she needs to come clean tonight. After a late lunch, I decided not to return to the office and went home instead. The answering machine was blinking with messages when I got in. Liz had left a couple of messages before calling my office, wondering where I was and why she couldn't get into the house. Then there was a message from Ricky Morris, a school acquaintance. He mentioned Liz and Rose were at the club Friday, spreading rumors about our separation. He wanted to know how to proceed. Rick called back quickly and then showed up at my house within 10 minutes. Ricky, who had a rough past and later found his path in life through amateur boxing and working as a bouncer, eventually became the manager of a big local club. There were rumors he might own a piece of some local night spots, too. Ricky has always been protective over me, especially where Liz is concerned. He would let me know who Liz was dancing with, or if anyone tried to hit on her when she went out. He was the one who told me Liz was known as the Ice Maiden in the club scene. Rick refused a beer since he was working later and opted for coffee instead. He wanted to know what was going on between me and Liz, since Rose was spreading rumors about us splitting up and accusing me of cheating with a young woman in Blackpool. I explained that Rose mistook my brother Philip and his wife in Blackpool for me, which led to Liz leaving me. Rick was shocked and asked if I had managed to clear up the misunderstanding with Liz. Yeah, well, Rick and I were just catching up. He was pretty sure no one ever got close to Liz like that. He even told me about Friday night at the club, how Liz and Rose left early and headed straight to Rose's place. He had checked with the taxi driver just to make sure. I thanked him for being such a good friend. Then we just talked about old times until he had to leave for work. Right when Ricky was leaving, Liz showed up. She seemed puzzled to see him, not knowing Ricky and I were friends. Inside the house, she asked if that was Maurice from the Starlight Club. I told her he was an old buddy just stopping by to talk about what's been going on with us. I took control in the kitchen, making coffee. Liz tried to brush off our issues as me being childish, but I wasn't having any of it. No, Ricky, we're playing a bit of a mind game right now. I was upset that Liz didn't talk to me first. It got me wondering if she's been sneaking around. Dave, trust me, no one's getting close to Liz. Some guys thought they had a shot when they heard you two were having trouble, but she was colder than ever. Liz and Rose left the club early, and I made sure they got straight home. Thanks, Ricky. It's good to know I've got friends. Anytime, Dave, you should drop by the club sometime. After catching up on old times, Ricky left just as Liz arrived. She recognized him and was puzzled why he'd visited. Inside, she questioned me about Ricky Morris from the Starlight Club. Yeah, he's an old buddy, came to talk about the divorce. Let's head to the kitchen for coffee. Liz tried to make peace, admitting Rose's mistake about mistaking my brother for me, but I was firm, reminding her of her quick decision to leave. She pleaded for us to stop the silliness and admit her fault, but I held my ground, questioning her trust in me over Rose. Liz confessed to acting hastily out of anger and sought to return home, but I was wary, questioning the depth of her trust in our future. You're right, I went too far. Rose suggested it to make you see I was serious. Back to Rose again. It feels like she's behind every argument we've had. And another thing, if Rose had mentioned seeing me with an Asian girl, wouldn't you think of Philip? But Rose didn't tell you the girl was Asian, did she? Maybe she didn't notice, but then why was she telling everyone I was with a bird? She must have known it was Mailing and Philip. I don't get why she lied to you. Why would she do that? I don't know, Liz, she's your friend, not mine. You figure out what she was up to. Liz sat quietly for a while before I got up to grab a drink. Can I have one too? She asked. After I handed her a drink, she asked me something serious. Have you ever hit on Rose since we got married? Me make a move on Rose? Are you kidding? Why would I do that? God only knows what diseases she doesn't care about catching. She's never been picky. And about Fran Cooper, your old secretary? Fran, are you crazy? You've seen her husband. Do you think I have a death wish? So, you've never flirted with Rose, and there was nothing between you and Fran. Don't be ridiculous. Why do you ask? Have you really never kissed Fran, besides at Christmas parties? We all kiss under the mistletoe. You're being silly again. Mixing business with pleasure is a mistake, and I've always been content with what I have at home. Damn, I've been such an idiot. I avoided commenting on that, but she'd lost more than she realized. Liz looked like she needed comfort, but I kept my distance, still playing the victim. Then she started to cry, and I couldn't resist comforting her. Eventually, she stopped and asked if I'd ever done anything I regretted in our marriage. What do you think? Why would Rose say she saw you with Fran? You should ask her that. She's your friend, not mine. No, she's not my friend, not after this. I realize now that all my doubts about you trace back to her. What doubts? I had doubts about you messing around when you were away, and that you and Fran had something going on. Really? Why didn't you ever mention it before? Because I love you. I didn't want to confront it. I hoped you would come back to me. I'd never leave you, Liz. I love you too much. Now I see I should have trusted you. I'm sorry, Dave. I've not been the best wife. Can you forgive me? Well, that's a question for you, not me. Figure out why you doubted me, then you'll know if you can forgive yourself. Liz then called Rose. We're not friends anymore. Don't talk, just listen. You've tried to ruin my marriage. Never contact me again. After hanging up, Liz asked, Can I bring my things inside from the car? No, let's go to bed. I've missed you. No pajamas needed tonight. That night was like a second honeymoon for us. In the morning, I arranged for our furniture to come back from storage, where Liz had put it. We got back to our normal lives, minus the expense of the lawyers and Rose's influence, which was totally worth it. Eventually, Liz learned that before we were married, Rose had a thing for me and wanted to take me from her. I always kept my distance from Rose because she seemed too forward for me. Liz and I are planning to grow old together, communicating more openly now. I hang out at Ricky's club often, but Liz is the real star on the dance floor. We haven't seen Rose since that day. On our anniversary, after one of my trips, Liz met me at the door and led me upstairs. Quickly getting undressed, she pushed me onto the bed and went straight for my belt. Then she started giving me an incredible experience, better than I could ever remember, certainly better than Fran or Rose ever did. Not as great as that lady in Blackpool who looked like Mailing, though. I really lucked out because of the resemblance. Before marrying Liz, I did have a fling with Rose, taking advantage of being a twin. However, Rose was all talk and lacked substance. I suspect she was upset with Phil, thinking it was me who criticized her performance. I've always disliked Rose, and I wonder if she ever realized Phil and I switched places on her. If she did, she kept it to herself. I've always tried to be a gentleman, but I've never claimed to be perfect. We're just a bit more cautious in life now. I sat in Rose's pink VW Beetle, parked across from our house, my house, the one I'd left in a fury just 2 days ago. The street was quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies every thought you're trying to drown out. My hands trembled as I clutched my phone, debating whether to call Dave, my husband of 19 years, and demand answers or just keep staring at the darkened windows, hoping he'd come out and explain himself. Rose was in the driver's seat, scrolling through her phone, muttering about how she'd always known Dave was that sort. I wanted to believe her, but something in me kept pulling back, like a tether I couldn't quite cut. It started on Thursday, when Rose called me, her voice sharp with that mix of excitement and venom she gets when she's got gossip. "Liz, I saw Dave in Blackpool last weekend," she said. "With some young thing all cozy heading into a hotel. I followed them, Liz. He didn't even notice me." My stomach dropped. Blackpool? Dave had told me he was in Edinburgh for work, same as always. We'd even talked on the phone that Saturday night, his voice steady, tired, the way it always was after a long day. But Rose was so sure, so detailed, describing the way he laughed, the way the woman clung to his arm. I didn't want to believe it, but the seed was planted, and it grew fast. I've always known Dave wasn't perfect. We didn't marry for some grand romance. I was pregnant with Susan and Sandra, and Dave, ever the responsible one, did the right thing. His father would have had his head if he hadn't, but over the years I fell for him. Hard. The way he'd stay up late with the girls when they were sick, the way he'd surprise me with flowers after a fight, the way he'd look at me like I was the only woman in the world. Still, there were moments, especially lately, when I felt him slipping away. The girls were off at university, and the house felt too big, too empty. Dave was gone so often for work, and I'd lie awake wondering if he was happy, if he still wanted this life with me. Rose had been my anchor through those doubts. We'd been friends since school, and she always knew how to make me laugh, how to pull me out of my head. But she also had a way of stirring things up. "Men are men, Liz," she'd say, rolling her eyes. "You think Dave's different?" I'd brush it off, but her words lingered. So when she told me about Blackpool, it was like a match to dry grass. I didn't ask Dave. I couldn't. What if he lied? What if he admitted it? Instead, I let the anger take over. I wrote that letter, my pen shaking as I poured out every fear, every hurt. I accused him of cheating, of betraying our girls, of throwing away everything we'd built. I packed my clothes, called Rose, and we rented a truck to move some furniture. My way of saying I was done. But sitting in that car now, watching the house, I wasn't so sure. The anger was still there, but it was tangled up with guilt, fear, and something else. Love, maybe, or just the weight of 19 years. Rose kept talking, saying I was better off without him, but her voice felt like static. I kept thinking about Dave's face, the way he'd look at me when he thought I wasn't watching. Could that man really betray me? I tried the front door earlier, my key useless, and the humiliation burned. He'd changed the locks, my own house, and I was locked out like a stranger. I wanted to scream, to bang on the door until he faced me, but pride kept me in the car. Sunday dragged on, with Rose running to McDonald's and me staring at my phone, willing Dave to call. I didn't know what I'd say if he did. Part of me wanted to apologize, to admit I'd jumped to conclusions, but another part was still furious, convinced he'd done something unforgivable. Rose kept feeding that fire, telling me I deserved better, that Dave was probably laughing at me from inside. But when I saw him on Monday, at that pub near his office, everything shifted. He looked tired, hurt, but also angry in a way I hadn't seen before. "What's your excuse, Elizabeth?" he said, his voice sharp, and I flinched at the name. He only called me Elizabeth when he was mad, just like I only called him David in a fight. I told him about Blackpool, about Rose seeing him with another woman, and he just stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Then Rose stormed in, slamming a photo on the table, and my heart sank. It was Dave, or so I thought, with some woman, laughing, carefree. But then he showed me the photo, calm as anything, and asked, "Isn't this Mailing?" Mailing, Phil's wife, Dave's identical twin brother. The realization hit me like a slap. I started crying, not just because I'd been wrong, but because I'd let myself believe the worst of him. Rose sat there, stunned, and I could feel her guilt radiating. Dave just sipped his beer, letting us stew. "Why would you even think I'd be unfaithful?" he asked, and I didn't have an answer. Not a good one. I mumbled something about Rose, about how convincing she was, but it sounded hollow. He pressed harder, asking if I'd been unfaithful, if that's why I was so quick to judge him. I swore I hadn't, and I meant it. Those late nights with Rose, the times I crashed at her place, they were just me trying to fill the emptiness, not betray him. When he left the pub, telling me to be at the house by 8, I felt like I was drowning. I drove to Rose's, packed my things, and told her we were done. She tried to argue, but I saw it now, her jealousy, her need to pull me down with her. At the house, Dave was waiting, and for the first time, I saw how much I'd hurt him. I tried to brush it off, to call it a silly mistake, but he wouldn't let me. "You trusted Rose over me," he said, and I couldn't deny it. I'd let her poison my mind because I was scared. Scared of losing him, scared of being alone. That night, as we lay in bed, it felt like a second chance. I promised myself I'd be better, that I'd talk to him instead of running to Rose or my own fears. But even now, I wonder if I'll ever fully trust again, not just him, but myself. I love Dave, more than I ever thought I could, but love doesn't erase doubt. It just makes you fight harder to keep it. The weeks after we made up felt like a dream I didn't want to wake from. Dave and I were careful with each other, like we were handling something fragile. We talked more, laughed more, even danced at Ricky's club like we were kids again. Rose was gone from our lives, and I thought that was the end of it. But I should have known better. Secrets have a way of clawing their way back. It was a Tuesday, maybe a month after that night in the pub, when the letter came. I was sorting through the mail, expecting bills or junk, when I saw it, a plain envelope, no return address, just my name, Elizabeth, in Rose's unmistakable loopy handwriting. My stomach twisted. I hadn't heard from her since I told her we were done, and I'd blocked her number, deleted her from my life. Dave was at work, so I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the envelope like it might bite. Part of me wanted to burn it, but curiosity got the better of me. I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, and her words hit me like a punch. "Liz, you think you know Dave, but you don't. Ask him about the summer before your wedding. Ask him why he was with me at the lake house. He's not the saint you think he is." My hands shook as I read it again, then again. The lake house? That was where Rose's family used to go, a place she'd dragged me to for weekends of cheap wine and bad decisions. Dave had been there once, I remembered, with a group of us, but he'd barely stayed a night. Or so he'd told me. I was pregnant with the girls then, and we were still figuring out what our life would be. The thought of him with Rose, of all people, made my skin crawl. I didn't want to believe it. Rose was a liar, a manipulator. I'd seen that clear as day in the pub. But the specificity of it, the lake house, gnawed at me. Why would she bring it up now, after all this time? Was this her final stab at revenge, or was there truth in it? I folded the letter and stuffed it in my pocket, but it felt like it was burning a hole through me all day. When Dave got home, I tried to act normal, but he knew something was off. "You okay, Liz?" he asked, loosening his tie. I nodded, but my smile was tight, and he didn't push. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Rose's handwriting, hearing her voice in my head. By morning, I couldn't stand it anymore. Dave was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, when I pulled the letter from my pocket and set it on the table. "What's this?" he asked, his brow furrowing. "Read it," I said, my voice sharper than I meant. He unfolded it, and I watched his face, first confusion, then something else, something guarded. He set it down, took a long sip of coffee, and said, "She's just stirring trouble, Liz. You know how she is." But I wasn't letting it go. "What happened at the lake house, Dave? The summer before we got married. You were there, weren't you?" His eyes flicked to mine, and for a second I saw it, guilt, or maybe just fear. "Yeah, I was there," he said slowly. "You know that. It was a group thing. You were there too, weren't you?" I shook my head. "I was 6 months pregnant, Dave. I didn't go anywhere that summer. You told me you went for one night, just to hang out. So why's Rose saying you were with her?" He leaned back, rubbing his face like he was tired of the conversation already. "Liz, this is ancient history. Rose is messing with you. She's pissed because you cut her off, and she's trying to get under your skin." But he wasn't looking at me, and that made my heart race. Dave, look at me. Did something happen with Rose back then? I need the truth. He sighed, heavy, and finally met my eyes. Nothing happened, Liz, I swear. I went to the lake house, had a few drinks, and left. Rose was there, sure, but I didn't touch her. I was with you, pregnant with our girls. Why would I risk that? His words sounded right, but something in his voice wasn't. I pressed harder. Then why's she so sure? Why's she bringing it up now, after 19 years? Dave stood pacing the kitchen, his jaw tight. Because she's Rose, Liz. She's always been jealous of you, of us. You think I'd be stupid enough to mess around with her, knowing how she is? But the more he talked, the less convinced I felt. I remembered how Rose used to look at him, how she'd flirt when she thought I wasn't watching. And Dave back then wasn't the devoted husband he became. He was a guy doing the right thing, and I'd always wondered if he'd resented it. I didn't say anything else, but the letter stayed in my pocket, a weight I couldn't shake. Over the next few days, I started noticing things, small things, like how Dave checked his phone more often, or how he'd go quiet when I mentioned Rose. I hated myself for it, but I started digging. I went through his old emails, his desk drawers, even the attic where we kept boxes from our early years. That's where I found it, a photo, tucked in an old journal, of Dave and Rose at the lake house. They were laughing, her hand on his arm, his smile too easy. It wasn't proof of anything, but it was enough to make my chest ache. I confronted him that night, the photo trembling in my hand. Explain this, Dave. He looked at it, and for the first time he didn't have a quick answer. Liz, it's just a photo, he said finally. We were drunk, messing around. Nothing happened. But I wasn't buying it. Then why didn't you tell me? Why hide it? And don't lie to me, Dave. I know you too well. He sat down, head in his hands, and I braced myself. All right, he said, voice low. Something happened, but it wasn't what you think. Rose came on to me that night, and yeah, I let it go too far. We kissed, Liz, but that was it. I stopped it, told her I was with you, and left. I swear, that's all. My heart sank, but it wasn't just the kiss. It was the lie, the years of him keeping it from me. Why didn't you tell me, I whispered. Because I was ashamed, he said. I didn't want you to think I wasn't all in. I love you, Liz. I've spent 19 years proving that. I wanted to believe him, but the trust we'd rebuilt felt like it was crumbling again. I need time, I said, and he nodded, looking like I'd punched him. The next few days were quiet, both of us tiptoeing around the truth. I called Rose, against my better judgment, and she laughed when I asked about the lake house. Oh, Liz, it was more than a kiss, she said. But I hung up before she could twist the knife deeper. I didn't know who to believe anymore. That weekend, I sat Dave down. I can't keep doing this, I said. If we're going to stay together, we need to be honest about everything. He agreed, and we talked, really talked, for the first time in years. He admitted to the kiss, to flirting with Rose before we were married, but swore it never went further. I told him about my fears, my doubts, how Rose had fed them for years. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. We're still working on it, still learning to trust again. Rose's letter was meant to break us, but maybe, just maybe, it's what we needed to finally be honest.